Good morning, Dr.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. I'm Deepa. I'm cardiology fellow at Mayo Clinic, Arizona, and I would like to interview for your COSMIC-ORBITA trial. Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Of course. So my name is Michael Foley. I'm one of the cardiology research fellows from Imperial College London, and I've been working with Rasha Alami on a number of placebo-controlled trials, Orbiter 2, and then my own project, Orbiter Cosmic, which we've just presented today at ACC.
Thank you. So my first question would be, what is the coronary reducer device? What is the mechanism of action for it?
So that's the key question. So the coronary sinus reducer is an hourglass-shaped wire mesh device. It's implanted percutaneously in the coronary sinus, and it's designed to narrow the lumen to 3 millimeters. That's hypothesized to have some beneficial effects on ischemic myocardium, and we wanted to test those hypotheses in Orbiter Cosmic. The idea comes from an early surgical technique from the early 20th century in the pre-revascularization age, but it re-emerged as a therapy really because of the emergence of a refractory angina patient population. But we wanted to test, firstly, its mechanism of action in Orbiter Cosmic, but also its placebo-controlled efficacy on angina symptoms.
Okay, so I was listening to your presentation, and it showed that it is a double-blind control study. So there was sham procedure was done. So what were the difficulties in explaining the sham procedure to the patient, and was it difficult to recruit the patients?
So I think the key thing that I've really learned from the process of recruiting patients into a trial like this is that actually the majority of patients want to help. It's much less about personal interest, but more about trying to help other patients like themselves. I think most patients understand exactly why you need to use a placebo control. When you explain to them, the placebo effect and the need to control for that in a clinical trial, most patients, understand that very readily and understand why you need to do the procedure as you do. Now, it's not for everybody, and some of our patients would tell us no, but the majority of patients we approach were happy to engage with the trial.
Okay. And what were your primary goals or primary endpoints for this study?
So that we had two primary outcomes. The first was stress myocardial blood flows. That's a quantified myocardial blood flow on MRI at follow-up. And we were specifically looking at the myocardial blood flow in segments that were designated ischemic as enrollment. The reason we did that is we thought that there may be a redistribution effect from less ischemic to more ischemic segments. So we had to pre-specify that it was the blood flow in those ischemic segments. And this primary symptom outcome was the number of episodes of angina reported on a smartphone application.
Okay, thank you. And how does this study compare to other studies? I think there are very few done so far.
So this is only the second randomized trial of the reducer. The first iteration was called Kazira. It was published in 2015, and that used a placebo control. They didn't actually measure or report the efficacy of their blinding, which we think is really important in these trials to ensure that the blinding protocol you've used was actually effective. But they found a significant benefit in physician-assessed angina, but not in any patient-reported endpoint. One of the key differences with us is that we had a rigorous invasive blinding protocol, and we measured the efficacy of blinding. We measured angina in a very different way with a daily angina reporting on a smartphone application, and we quantified myocardial blood flow using MRI, which is another key difference between the trials.
Yes. So yeah, that was quite elaborate study. And how does how this study will help in patient management in clinical symptomatology?
Well, I like to think, I hope that this trial will inform practice. I think this is a relatively new device, and it's a device that people have been pretty skeptical about. Clearly, the cardiology community at large has been waiting for more data in this space before using the coronary sinus reducer more widely. Certainly the FDA hasn't yet approved it in the United States. In Europe, it is starting to be used, but lots of physicians are waiting for more data, and hopefully Orbiter Cosmic can provide some of that. We now, for the first time, have a potential physiological substrate for a beneficial angina. We do see an improvement in subendocardial perfusion, and we've seen placebo-controlled symptom benefits. So I hope it will inform practice.
And what is the take home away message for after this trial?
I would say that in a trial where we've used randomization in the cath lab with mandatory sedation and auditory isolation and measured effective blinding, there was a placebo-controlled symptom benefit with the coronary sinus reducer. How it works remains to be seen, I think. I think there's much more to be done in that space, but we have good efficacy evidence now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was really helpful.
Pleasure. Thank you.
To watch more videos like this, please check out youtube.com FITsOnTheGo and follow us on Twitter.